It began on a stormy evening, inside a small roadside restaurant that smelled of bread and rain. The owner, Samuel, moved quietly from table to table, wiping the counters, ready to close. He was a man who liked order, every spoon in place, every chair aligned, every moment predictable. To him, the restaurant wasn't just a business. It was his fortress, a place where he could control what the world could take from him. For years, Samuel had built walls around his heart. He had known loss, the kind of loss that makes you want to stop feeling altogether. After his parents died when he was young, he stopped believing that kindness could last, or that people stayed. So he poured his heart into work. He cooked for others, served with a polite smile, but inside he was empty. He told himself that peace was found in solitude, that safety was worth the loneliness. That night, as the rain fell harder, the door creaked open. A woman stepped in, drenched, shivering, her coat clinging to her shoulders. She looked exhausted, the kind of tired that comes not just from walking, but from carrying too many unseen burdens. Samuel turned, surprised and irritated. "We're closing," he said, his voice firm. The woman smiled faintly. "I'm sorry, I just need something warm to eat." He glanced at the clock, 15 minutes past closing. He sighed. "The kitchen's done for the night. You'll have to come back tomorrow." She nodded slowly, disappointment in her eyes. "Please," she whispered, "I haven't eaten since morning." But Samuel shook his head. "I can't help you. I'm sorry." And with that, he turned away. But something made him stop. As she reached for her bag to leave, the light from a hanging lantern caught the small silver pendant around her neck, a necklace, shaped like a dove in flight. The tiny bird shimmered against her wet clothes, and in that flicker of light, Samuel froze. His breath caught. That symbol, that dove, it wasn't just familiar. It was his past. When Samuel was a boy, his mother had given him the same necklace. He remembered her voice as she clasped it around his neck. "Whenever you feel lost, my son, look for the dove. It will remind you that peace still lives within you, even when the world forgets." He had lost that necklace years ago in a house fire that took almost everything he owned. He had buried that memory, buried the pain that came with it. But now, here it was again, shining from the neck of a stranger. Something inside him softened. He turned back to her, his tone gentler now. Where did you get that?" he asked. The woman touched it lightly. "This, my grandmother gave it to me," she said. "She told me it was a sign of peace, a promise that we are never truly alone." Samuel's eyes filled with something he hadn't felt in years, a fragile warmth, a stirring of faith. "Would you like some soup?" he asked quietly. She looked up, surprised. "Really?" He nodded. "Yes, sit, please." As the storm raged outside, Samuel went to the kitchen and began to cook. For the first time in years, he didn't mind that the hour was late. He ladled hot soup into a bowl, toasted a piece of bread, and brought it to her table. The woman smiled softly, and in that simple act, serving another with kindness, something inside Samuel began to heal. They talked as the rain drummed against the windows. Her name was Esther. She told him she'd left the city to find peace. She'd spent years chasing success, chasing noise, chasing the next thing that was supposed to make her happy, and yet, the more she gained, the emptier she felt. So she walked away. She said she wanted to find something real. Samuel listened. Her words echoed through him like truth he'd been avoiding. He realized that, in his own way, he'd done the same. He had built a life of control and order, not peace. His restaurant was not a home, it was a hiding place. He had confused stillness with fear. He looked around at his spotless tables, his quiet empty room, and for the first time, he saw what was missing: heart, warmth, connection. He looked back at Esther and said softly, "I think I understand." Esther smiled, her eyes kind. "Maybe you've just been protecting yourself for too long," she said. "Sometimes peace doesn't come from closing the door. It comes from letting someone in." Those words sank deep. Samuel didn't reply. He just watched the steam rise from her bowl and thought of his mother, of how she used to hum as she cooked, how her love filled every space, how her laughter made even small moments holy. He hadn't realized until now how much of that warmth he had shut out. After Esther finished eating, she thanked him and left quietly. But that night, Samuel couldn't sleep. He walked through his restaurant, touching the chairs, the counter, the old window that creaked in the wind. The pendant kept flashing in his mind, the dove, the words of his mother, the peace he'd lost. He whispered into the silence, maybe it's time to open the door again. The next morning, Samuel arrived early. He looked around his restaurant and decided to change something. He brought in a few plants, added candles to the tables, placed a small wooden board on the wall, and carved into it the words, "Be still and you will know." He wanted his place to feel alive again, a space not just for eating, but for healing. Over the weeks, things began to shift. The restaurant became warmer, softer, more human. People stayed longer, talked more. Strangers began to open up to each other. Samuel found himself listening, really listening. And through those small moments of connection, his heart grew lighter. He even created a corner filled with books on faith, kindness, and reflection. Customers started calling it the Peace Corner. But transformation rarely comes without tests. One evening, an inspector visited. The kitchen needed repairs, expensive ones. Samuel felt his old fear return. The voice in his mind whispered, "You can't afford this. Close it down. Go back to the way things were." He stood alone in the dim restaurant, staring at the carved words on the wall. "Be still and you will know." He closed his eyes and whispered, "All right, I'll trust." Instead of hiding, he told his customers the truth. "Friends," he said, "this place is more than a restaurant to me now. It's become a place of peace for many. I need your help to keep it alive." To his surprise, they responded. A carpenter offered to fix the shelves. A plumber volunteered to check the pipes. Regulars left small donations at the counter. The whole town came together. Within weeks, the restaurant was repaired, not just rebuilt, but reborn. When the reopening day came, Samuel decorated the tables with small doves cut from paper. People filled the room, laughing, sharing, eating. And among them, Esther returned. She sat at her same table, smiling softly. Samuel walked over, placed a cup of tea before her, and said, "I never got to thank you." She tilted her head. "For what?" "For reminding me that peace doesn't live behind walls." She smiled. "You didn't need reminding, Samuel. You just needed to see it again." He nodded, and for the first time in his life, he felt the kind of peace that didn't depend on order or control, a peace that lived quietly in his chest, strong and unshakable. He looked around at the laughter, the warmth, the conversations, and realized, he hadn't built a restaurant. He had built a sanctuary, a place where souls could rest, where food fed more than the body, where kindness fed the spirit. Later that night, when the last customer left, Samuel stood alone again. The candlelight danced on the walls. His eyes drifted to the wooden plaque, and next to it, hanging gently, was the necklace. Esther had left it there, the dove pendant, gleaming softly in the light. He walked closer, touched it gently, and whispered, "Thank you, Mother. I understand now." Tears filled his eyes, not of sadness, but of release. The years of grief, the weight of loneliness, the fear of being hurt again, all melted away. He realized that inner peace isn't about having no storms. It's about knowing that even in the storm, you are not alone. It's about realizing that the dove, that symbol of love and grace, was never lost. It had been waiting inside him all along. The days that followed were filled with new life. Samuel cooked with joy. He greeted each person with warmth. The walls that once protected him now radiated comfort. The customers could feel it, the shift, the calm, the love in the air. People started coming from nearby towns, not just for the food, but for the feeling the place gave them, the peace that lingered even after they left. One day, as Samuel watched the sunset through the restaurant window, he smiled. He whispered to himself, "I thought peace was something you had to find. But it's something you uncover, once you stop hiding." He turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked into the cool evening air, the dove pendant gently glowing through the window behind him, a silent reminder of a truth eternal. That faith doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. That peace doesn't always arrive in silence, sometimes it comes through a storm. And that love doesn't always knock gently. Sometimes, it walks in soaking wet, wearing a silver necklace, and changes your life forever. So if you're listening to this, maybe you've built walls around your own heart. Maybe you've said, "Get out," to life itself, afraid of being hurt again. But perhaps it's time to open the door, even just a little. Let the light in, let peace find you, because somewhere inside you, the dove is still waiting, ready to fly again. Thank you for watching Kind Tales. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let this message remind someone that faith, love, and kindness still exist. Sometimes, all it takes is a single moment to see them again.